The student union had organised something like 34 events across the whole country. There was live music, singing, fire oaths, speeches by...
Fire oaths.
Fire oaths.
I swear by the burns I'm about to give myself, I will do my homework.
Something like that. Yeah, it must be.
I've heard of a lot of things.
Yeah.
Okay.
Speeches by big dignitaries, incantations as well.
Fuck yes.
Yeah, and they got a whole lot of radio and newspaper coverage. The newspapers described them as great, joyous ceremonies. But we know now, of course, and shit, you didn't have to be very aware at the time to know then that the German Students' Union was scum. And the events they'd organised weren't joyous ceremonies, but disgusting precursors of what was to come.
Satanism and Nazis.
So they started in early May 1933, plundering libraries throughout university towns.
The timing gives it away, doesn't it? A little bit. Yeah, okay.
They came first for the truly heroic sexologist.
What?
Truly heroic sexologist and advocate for gay and transgender rights, Dr. Magnus Hirschfeld.
Holy shit, in the 30s.
Yeah, I'm not going to tell you his story now, but one day I will.
Yeah.
Oh, what a trailblazer. Total trailblazer.
Yeah.
Like in the 30s. He was just, for many people, big hero. Dr. Magnus Hirschfeld, and dragged, there was like 20,000 books and journals and things like that in his institute's library, dragged them out onto the street and burnt them.
God, it just still hurts.
Oh, I was reading this bit and I was just like, I was so freaking angry. And then the list expanded.
Of course.
So Goebbels joined in. He's like, no to decadence and moral corruption. Yes to decency and morality in family and state. So what was on the list? They burned books of what they called traitors, immigrants and authors from foreign countries. So if people had left Germany and writing a bad book, they burned them, who believed they were denigrating the new Germany. They burned anything that smelled of Marxism, communism, or pacifism. They burned liberal literature. They burned books on modern art. They really didn't like modern art.
Oh, wow.
I know.
I love pacifism too. What? You don't want arguments and violence? No. Get out.
Burn it. Yeah, totally. And they burned books of so-called Jewish science.
Well, but no, that's Jew science. No, that's just science.
They definitely had a term for that. And
I'm
in particular,
feeling pretty bad that I brought
that's all right.
Munich beer now.
That's all right. That's all right.
Was that a mistake?
No, it's not. In particular, the works of Albert Einstein. Einstein. But while they were burning, the Students' Union and a variety of other organisations ran a parallel project seeking to stock the library shelves with the books that they did consider decent and moral. And what they replaced Einstein with, well, that's the story I'm going to tell you today. Welcome to The Wholesome Show.
Oh, keep singing. I wouldn't know how to
Science stories for people who sit up the back of the classroom.
It doesn't rhyme.
It doesn't rhyme. There's no song in there. I hadn't thought that through. Listen,
all songs rhyme.
I hadn't thought that through.
You're terrible.
Well, anyway, The Wholesome Show is me, Will Grant.
And me, Dr. Roderick Griffin. I love Jewish science, Lamberts.
Me too. Big
I'm a
fan.
fan.
Hans Hobiger. Hörbiger was born just outside of Vienna, 29th of November, 1860.
An Österreicher.
Yes, ostrich. In fact,
yes.
that was an ostrich, yes. His Austrianness was a little bit part of the story later on. An engineer by training.
Imagine that.
I know.
A Germanic engineer.
Indeed.
There must be at least 3.
Yeah. So just for the record, engineers, great, love engineers. You know, Einstein did some training in physics, and if you're replacing Einstein's theory, maybe physics might be good training. I don't know.
Engineers do physics, though. You can't.
They do.
You can't engineer without it.
Well, he was an inventor. So when he was 34, he came up with a new design for a blast furnace blowing engine. Basically, they used to have leather flaps on them, and he replaced it with a steel flap. Or a valve. I think being fairness to him, it was a steel valve.
This is going to get hot. Oh, very.
Let's put a
animal product then. I think it's something organic. Definitely organic.
Yeah, yeah.
excellent.
This leather flap only lasts one use. Why don't we get something that
What we do is we just keep pouring water on it.
Look, apparently he did very well out of this, and it smoothed the way for efficient steel production and greater productivity in mining. And apparently, high-pressure chemistry and the global network of gas exchange, none of these would be possible without the Hobiger valve. So
I reckon that's fair. Yeah. I took leather away from fire and put steel in its place. That's going to change a few things.
Well, he did do it. He also played a key role in the design and construction of the Budapest subway. Budapest, which was the third in the world.
Third. Slack. Bronze medal.
But it's still a bronze medal.
Second loser.
How many subways have you built?
Second loser.
And I think Canberra.
I haven't built any. You know why? Already been done. I'm a trailblazer, not a trail follower. That's not true.
All right. But it was his hobby. It was his hobby that was his pathway to
good.
fame and glory and greatness. His hobby, you see, he was a keen amateur astronomer.
He was keen astronomy.
Keen astronomy, yes.
Okay.
So definite photos of him with his glorious beard
And moustache.
And moustache. Like that is.
That was at a time when you'd call it moustaches.
Yes, definitely. And he has them. He has them.
moustaches.
Listener, I'll chuck this up on the Twitter account later. He has an amazing beard. It's just he would go world beard competition. He would get the bronze. So he's a keen astronomer, and there's photos of him with nice little sort of kid-sized telescopes, like home telescopes. Home telescope being the way that you
Toilet roll and the
Einstein.
bottom of two broken glasses.
Yes.
Yeah, nice.
Okay. Now, once upon a time, and I can't tell you if this was when he was a kid or when he was 50 years old.
Hard to tell.
The stories are not precise on this point. He pointed his telescope at the moon and suddenly realized it's all made of ice. Ice. Everything is ice. Cold, cold ice. The whole moon is made of ice.
I did not know that.
And Venus, too. Venus, look how shiny it is. It's made of ice.
The sun's even shinier. That must be ice too.
Everywhere he looked away from Earth was ice.
So this is the first guy to be diagnosed with cataracts, isn't it?
It's all so shiny, it must be ice. So
I've noticed my vision's blurry
he looked
too.
at the moon, he looked at Mars, he looked at Neptune, he looked at the Milky Way, and he's like, oh my God, it's all ice.
Right.
Everything in the universe is ice.
It all makes sense.
Yeah, all big ice blocks. Everywhere is ice. And not only was it made of ice, he said ice is the driving force of the universe.
Yes.
So
It is when you want a cocktail.
yeah, sure, it's nice. Everyone.
When you really want ice, it becomes a driving force. But otherwise, I'm a little skeptical.
Not long later,
Yeah.
he had a prophetic dream. He saw the Earth as a giant pendulum swinging on a pendulum string. And another side note here, pendulum science, friggin' huge at the time in Germany.
Wow.
Everyone was into pendulums.
They're just a bunch of swingers.
Everyone was
All
in.
we do is swing.
It's pendulum. So anyway, he saw the Earth suspended on a luminous thread, and he saw it swing.
Of ice.
No, Earth is not ice.
No, the thread must be, though.
Thread could be. I
of
don't know.
course it is.
It's maybe. And he saw it swing, longer and longer swings. It swung to Jupiter and to Saturn and beyond, and it swung past Neptune. It swung 3 times past Neptune, and then it broke. And he's like, oh, that's it. That's the limit. That's the limit of the solar system. That's where gravity stops. That's the end. So the whole universe.
That's where gravity stops.
Yeah.
okay.
That's it. That's it.
Okay.
The sun's gravity doesn't get any more. The whole universe is basically that. I knew that Newton had been wrong and that the sun's gravitational pull ceases to exist at 3 times the distance of Neptune.
Cool, because I dreamt it.
Yeah. And of course, the world needed to know.
Yeah.
He teamed up with another local amateur astronomer, a school teacher named Philip Fouth, who had already done a bunch of astronomy things. He created a large map of the moon.
The ice moon.
The ice moon that he now knew was an ice moon.
Sweet.
And the two collaborated to explain Hobiger's theory, solving, as they claimed, the riddles of the universe, especially the formation of the planets, geological history, and meteorology with engineering principles.
Holy snapping duck shit. That's a big call. Everything's made of ice. I think I know about the rest.
Yeah, all of it.
It all makes, and the dream. Let's not discount that. It all makes sense now. What a fun time, though. Like, you make shit up like that now, no. But if you, back then.
That's the thing.
Books.
They published an 800-page book. Like, it's the size of like an Encyclopedia Britannica.
Like 300 pages is the title, right?
No, it's not. It's a short title. It's Glacial Cosmogony,
God,
But it's a big book. And so they published it in
unambitious.
1912, and it's a huge book where they're describing all of this stuff. So that's their original name for the theory.
Glacial cosmology.
Glacial cosmogony, but it's in Latin. So they Germanicized it later to make it more authentic to Weltislehre. Weltislehre.
Do you want to handle that? Are you good?
That one there. You want to read it? Weltislehre.
Weltheis?
Weltheis, E-I-S. Yeah, Weltheis. I mean, 'cause it's,
Weltheislehre.
yeah, there you go. World ice doctrine or theory. World ice.
Yeah, Lehre is like teach.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sometimes called cosmic ice theory. Cosmic ice is my favorite version of it, I think. Anyway,
Love it.
so what is in the cosmic ice theory?
Well, everything. Clearly.
A lot more than should be. A lot more than should
Starting with its existence, diving in from there.
Now, I'm gonna read a bunch from the awesome Willy Lay's article. Willy Lay is awesome. His article is awesome. His article is Pseudoscience in Naziland. And I just tiny aside on Willy Lay. He was lived in Germany at the time. He was German, lived in Germany at the time.
Okay.
He later emigrated. He didn't like Nazis. Emigrated to America. But he ran an amateur rocket club in Germany in the 1930s. That was so good at its amateur rocketry that the Gestapo came in and confiscated everything. This is too good. You can't have this anymore.
Or else you must go professional. It's one or the other.
And also, when he was in America,
wild.
he became basically a rocket theorist, scientist, and science writer. He was also one of the first to successfully deliver the mail by rocket.
And I'm one of the last as well.
There was actually a large movement from like literally as far back as 1800. There were people that were saying, that's how the mail is going to be delivered by rocket.
What does it sound like? Like the windows rattle down the street as this thing like sound barriers through your.
And there's so it really took off in like 1930s, I think 1920s, 1930s. People are like, okay, now's the time. We will do mail by rocket. I think the first thing they tried was mail by artillery. They would pack
Bit to the left, a bit more to the left. Okay.
They'd pack all of the letters into
Get your mail catching gloves. Remember to pull your goggles down. Here it comes. Count to 10. Don't let it land on your head.
Weirdly, I think the first place might have been was it Tonga or something like that. But anyway, this is in America. Yeah, it was very weird. Very
You're fucking delivering mail by artillery in Tonga. You'd shoot freaking Samoa. Like it just oops, too much.
Maybe I'll do that whole story one day.
Please. I can wait. Just finish this.
But there was definitely a chunk of people. Like male people, like the people who said, look, this is inevitable. It is inevitable that the world is going to deliver rocket.
Why? I deliver mail via artillery. That's better than rockets. It's just so ridiculous. Stuff this letter in here. It costs 90 times more than a normal letter to deliver, but fuck, it gets there at high velocity.
So I got some new heroes out of this, and Willy Lay.
How much mail survives? I've sent you 1,000 letters. No, I haven't seen one of them. I saw something whiz by on fire.
It's fast.
Was that
it's fast.
Yeah, the shit you never get really doesn't get to you quickly.
Oh, my God. All right. Okay, back to Hobiger. Here's his story about the origin of the solar system. Millions of years ago, there existed in the constellation Columba. I don't know where that is.
I was thinking nowhere.
It could well be. I don't know. A supergiant sun, like really, really, really giant, like as big as our solar system, sort of big.
Yeah.
Millions of times as large and as heavy as our sun. Now, near that sun was another star, not as big, but still pretty big, many times bigger than Jupiter. But the problem was this smaller star was dead and totally waterlogged. Like it was really
soggy.
It was a really soggy star. It's covered by layers of ice, hundreds of miles thick, and waterlogged all the way through. Soggy. And one day, the soggy star fell into the big working star, and it settled at a depth. And this is where he went really engineer for a second, corresponding to its specific gravity.
Or turned into steam.
No, not yet. Not yet. Because once when Hobiger was a young engineer, he saw molten iron from a furnace, probably from his blast furnace, run over waterlogged earth with patches of snow on it, and observed the wet lumps of soil exploded with a delay and great violence. So it took a while, and then so I don't know.
Okay.
So he says.
That's kind of cool.
The waterlogged star fell into the big star, and it took quite a while. The sogginess dried out and changed into superheated steam, but nothing happened for millions of years. And then suddenly, the equilibrium was disturbed for some reason.
Stuff.
We don't know. Yeah,
Stuff.
we don't know. And the superheated steam exploded. And it blew the little star and layers of sun material into space as a whirling mass, and all of it froze into giant ice blocks.
AKA planets?
Yes. So there's a ring of ice blocks on the outside of the solar system. That's the Milky Way. Lots of ice blocks out there.
Is it now?
Yes.
There you go.
The Milky Way is only just outside the solar system, so that's the edge.
I did not know that.
And then heaps and heaps of planets. He said there's like 34 planets. I don't know why he said
the
there's
galaxy
or in our solar
system.
system. I don't know. He doesn't have galaxies.
There are galaxies.
He doesn't have
You're
galaxies.
right.
Anyway, so that's the birth of our solar system. Now, in that, there are two types of planets. There's the Neptodes, or outer planets, which have swallowed lots of ice blocks.
Right.
And the Heliodes, the inner planets, haven't swallowed many ice blocks, and they're made of metal. So they're like
Yeah, they are.
they're like Venus and Earth and stuff like that. So so lots of ice blocks, not very many ice blocks.
The thinking. Like, because I know we think we know a lot more than he did.
Yeah. Yep.
The elaborate lines of reasoning
And this and this
and
this.
then to assert them with such confidence never fails to blow my mind.
and to get 800 pages out. Like there's
a lot to talk about.
It's a lot of typing. That's a lot of work.
I'm amazed by the raw fucking brass of it all. You're just like, I thought it through. Oh, okay. So this could mean because there's pixies and something to do with my neighbor who came along because their car backfired. And you're like, what are you talking about? It's just freaking red twine and a corkboard.
Very.
That's wild.
So he said the cool thing was that, so ice is the driving force of the universe, but we can also use it to predict the weather. See, interplanetary space is filled with traces of hydrogen gas, which cause the planets to slowly spiral inwards. So everything is falling inwards towards either the Earth or towards the sun. All of the ice blocks are coming down.
Right.
And so ice blocks you can see on the move, that's meteors.
Okay.
If you see a meteor, that's an ice block on the move.
Obviously.
And if an ice block on its way to the sun happens to hit the Earth, that's when you get a hailstorm.
Oh.
Proved by the fact that hailstorms move in straight lines. So
And are made of ice.
and are made of ice. Yeah, exactly.
So it must come from space.
Comes from space. So I mean, it's up. It's up. So
Yeah, that's true.
but if an ice block falls all the way into the sun, it doesn't stay there. It evaporates and is blown out through a funnel of the sunspot as a jet of hot water vapor, which freezes in space and forms fine ice. And fine ice, like Mercury and Venus, totally covered in fine ice. Like it's all they're completely covered.
Venus is renowned for being very cold.
Yeah, that's it.
true.
It's
true.
the. But he says Earth is in the sweet spot, the Goldilocks zone. So he was right on one thing, the Goldilocks zone,
Sure.
where too close and you're covered in fine ice, too far away, not enough fine ice. I don't know. Mars is covered in thick ice.
It's closer to the sun you are.
Yes.
Ice.
Yeah. And so fine ice, when it hits Earth, that's the clouds.
He's an engineer though. Does he recognise that when you put ice near a heat source, it gets less iced?
Yeah, but
This is a bit. I mean, call me picky, and I've really not done a degree in engineering
or ice.
or physics,
Yeah, there you go.
but I'm curious about that leap.
I don't know.
Kind of underpinning most of it.
I don't know. Hobiger himself, he doesn't seem to be a super bad guy. He gets a little bit cranky later on. He seems a crackpot. And that's one of the key things. The key thing here is it's not just about the crackpot. It's about how his idea was taken up. So
Of course, it's never. It's not a lone act. It is a community act at some level.
yeah.
Yeah.
So Earth is lucky. Too much fine ice that way, too much thick ice that way,
Yeah.
but we're in the sweet spot.
Yeah.
Now, our moon, of course, ice.
Obviously, yeah.
And weirdly, this is our fourth moon. 3 other moons have crashed into Earth many times over because everything's basically crashing into each other slowly.
Bugger.
And when this moon crashes into the Earth, that's the end. That's the end of all life.
I think he's not wrong there. I don't think it'd be great.
Yeah, he said the other moons that have fallen in, fortunately, they were too small to kill all life. Their masses formed what we now call geological deposits.
Okay.
And in fact, he reckons that the most recent moon crash was witnessed by primitive man. The Norse legends about the Gotterdammerung and the apocalyptic visions, that's all about former moon crashes. So
okay, there's an apocalyptic thing. It was old, therefore must have been that.
Yeah.
The whole thing that ice becomes rocks confuses me. But anyway, carry on.
I don't know. Ice is just a water rock.
Yeah, but rocks aren't. That's the reason. Like, the ice became a geological formation. It's like,
when the last moon came down, that's what killed Atlantis. A bunch of this. So Christina Westerly has done a bunch of work on Hobiger's stuff, and so some of her articles are really interesting here. She said that Hobiger's world ice doctrine not only said it will explain astronomical, geological, and meteorological phenomena, it even offered a cosmic cultural history, a scientific and philosophical, poetic, artistic, total view of the world. He's explaining everything. He's got everything.
Please tell me he ends up running a cult, because it really it would be good.
Basically.
I'm so
basically.
I'm so
in fact, yeah, you could say it's one of the most dangerous cults
That's a big call.
that there's been. No.
Okay.
No, it's pretty easily about the most dangerous cult that there has been. Not him. He doesn't run it.
It may have been related to his ideas.
It may have been related to his ideas. Another theory that he had was that the cosmic rays of the moon, which is spiraling closer to us, are going to cause man to reawaken to his place in the living universe. Mutations will transform his existence, and demigods and giants will again arise in our midst.
So that'd be cool.
Yeah.
Do you get to turn into one, though, or do you have to be born one?
I think a certain type of people might turn into them.
That's us.
Well, yeah.
Come on, we could be huge.
I think an uprush of fire was imminent, that great initiates would cooperate once more with the cosmos and its struggle between ice and fire.
It's Scientology.
It totally is.
Yeah.
That supermen would once more walk the Earth's surface, and that before them the slave men would tremble and obey.
Great. I love once more too.
Yeah. Do you feel the cult that might be coming?
No idea.
No,
Could be anything.
Now,
Wait, did this happen near Germany?
Yeah, indeed.
Yeah, no, that's it.
You might be thinking, as I said before, okay, he's got a crackpot idea. Like, why is the world's premier science story podcast talking about this? I mean,
Because it's a bit of a wheeze.
well, yeah, maybe. But Germany's scientists at the time, they didn't care about it. They were like, dude, you're insane. If they even...
Do you know why they didn't care about it? The word scientist.
Yeah, I know. That's probably it. So there seems to be no reaction at all, because they're like, why should we read this stuff? It's garbage.
Yeah, it's a good
There
reaction.
there was one astronomer that I can find, Edmund Weiss, who said that Hobiger might as well have claimed that the cosmos was made of olive oil as ice, because the theory is basically the same.
That's cool. I use a lot more olive oil than ice.
But also, 1912... World War I happened, 1914, and it killed any further interest in his book at this time.
And a lot of people.
And yes, a lot of people. So people, they're fighting in the trenches. I don't think very many people were super interested in reading the world ice theory at the time.
No.
But Hobiger was not to be dissuaded. He turned total zealot for his job. After the war, now equipped as Willy Ley describes it, with a long white beard, a persona like a Renaissance polymath, and handwriting calculated to impress amateur graphologists, he changed tactics. I don't know why his handwriting matters, but it seems...
Calculated to impress amateur graphologists.
I don't know.
That sentence has never been formed anywhere else in the universe.
So Hobiger's theory was, if the masses accepted his ideas, that would put sufficient pressure on the academic scientists to agree with it.
Okay.
He wanted to force the cosmic ice theory through.
That's just good science. You do it by bullying and imposition. That's how it works.
It's not, but yeah, no.
Oh, but you're so traditional.
Yeah, so he took up all of this, like this persona, and he convinced that audience, these sort of, smart people in Germany, but not scientists. So, bourgeois intellectuals, that kind of thing. He took up,
like us, so he would have convinced us. No
yes,
problem.
probably.
Yes.
Well, maybe.
Bourgeois intellectuals.
He convinced them that what he was doing was truly scientific,
Right.
and it was serious scientific work, full of objectivity and rationality.
Sure.
And here's how he described, how Willy Ley described his tactics. He appeared on the scene like a political party, created a whole new movement promoting the ice world vision to amateur scientists and bourgeois intellectuals through cosmotechnical societies, an information bureau in Vienna. He gave public lectures to crowds of up to like 1,200 people. He made cosmic ice movies and radio programs, released a monthly magazine called The Key to World Events, which is such a great title.
Big call. And I love how ambiguous it is.
Yeah.
What is this? It's the key to world events. I'll take a copy.
Like if you're walking through the newsagent, which is the one you want to read? The key.
Yeah,
to
it's the horse fetishists, something to do with weddings, a Hammer magazine, the key to world. What was it? Events.
I'm still stuck on the Hammer magazine though.
Of course you are, but that's because you're a specialist.
MC Hammer or like the Tool or both.
We're gonna have to buy the magazine and find out.
I want both.
No, you can't have it for
Front
free.
half is MC Hammer.
You got to buy it.
Yeah, and something like 40 novels and popular books. And I don't know.
He is L. Ron Hubbard.
Wow, totally. Now, I don't know if he wrote all of those. I think there was a lot of devotees that joined in and like, cool,
Sure.
I'm going to write the novel as well.
Yeah.
I couldn't find any of the novels, but I could find this totally wild heavy metal novel that was written like 10 years ago. Karnov, phantom-clad rider of the cosmic ice. And listener, the cover of this book is just so heavy metal
It's
wild.
spectacular.
Like
Except there aren't women who basically have a small piece of metal over their vaginas and 2 small power pasties.
just over the side here. Just over the side.
Marginalising the hot women.
Well,
Typical.
But that's Karnov. I mean, Karnov's got to be the center of it. He's
but
the rider.
Karnov-
He's the rider of the cosmic
Come on,
ice.
Karnov basically is carnal. He should be surrounded by the ladies. That's how it would work in that subculture.
Once he's defeated the baddie,
Oh, that's true.
whoever the baddie is.
Skeletor by the looks of it. Damn.
And even better, here's the thing: new members of the World Ice Movement, Cosmic Ice Movement, put out weather forecasts. Like they put out a monthly weather forecast. Claimed that its principles permitted reliable general, not local, general weather forecasts for months and even years in advance.
Today on Earth, there's going to be some storms.
There's ice. Some ice is
There'll
coming.
be hail.
I love the chutzpah of going, oh no, we can do this. We've got a totally made up theory and we can predict the weather with it.
Careful with the Jewish language there, mate. You'll be found by the ice people.
Yeah, okay. Germany lapped it up.
Did they?
Yeah, they totally did. As Willy Ley says, created a virtual cult around Hobiger and his teachings. Now, Willy Ley starts his essay with this really cool, it's not a quote, it's just his way of thinking. Yep. He's German, so he can say this. When things get so tough that there be no way out, the Russian embraces the vodka bottle, the Frenchman, a woman, and the American, the Bible. The German tends to resort to magic, to some nonsensical belief which he tries to validate by ways of hysterics and physical force. I think it's interesting. I've never necessarily thought that magic and magical thinking is big in Germany, but there is and there's a great article and book. So Eric Kurlander, historian, Hitler's Monsters is the book, and then there's an article I read called The Song of Ice and Fire, but talking about how all of this is such an undercurrent in German society that the Nazis drew on. Like they
did. They were widely occult. Hitler was
the,
widely occult, but the whole drawing on that, I associate it more with more northern Germanic types, like Nordic folk.
Yep.
Not as much with Germany per se, but yeah, I can see it.
Yeah, and I'm sure there's plenty of people that weren't, and I assume that maybe all of those feelings with a bunch of the stuff that happened in the 20s and 30s, they latched together, and it's really interesting. So anyway,
that's the most interesting thing about the Third Reich. Well, they did 2 things well. Hugo Boss suits, very very cool, very well tailored. Yeah, okay. They were very well tailored.
Yep. Look, yes.
They represented monstrosity, but they were very well tailored in doing it.
Yes.
And they're weaving in with the occult, gave us Indiana Jones and other cool things like that.
It's such the thinking, and it was fascinating reading this, all of this stuff. It's the thinking that you see in the Indiana Jones, and I always thought, that's got to be a little bit. They turned it not at all.
Wildly into it.
Not
wildly
at
into
all.
It.
Wildly into it.
Hitler was fucking Ouija board casting bones and covered in rune tats.
And this is the interesting one, that world ice theory was the one that Hitler embraced the most.
That's awesome.
Like they Heinrich Himmler, Hitler, they are all totally down for world ice theory. This is the one. And
that's wild.
I'll come to why in a
If we're going to go back to what people do, by the way, I'm going to be the Frenchman. That sounds like the best approach.
It does.
Like magic's great, but
the vodka bottle that's not solving a lot of your problems.
Drunk's easy.
Yeah.
What was it? Americans Bible. Nope.
I don't know. Magic's fun though.
Magic's fun, but women exist.
Well, look. I don't want to give the conclusion away, but the end of the war, the Nazis didn't do so well.
What?
And there's a bunch of arguments that maybe the magical thinking maybe slowed them down a little bit. I'll tell you some examples in a
It's hard to imagine. If we believe hard enough, we'll win.
Oh my god! Obviously, all countries are made of a lot of different trajectories, currents, tensions, things like that. No one people believe one thing.
Yeah.
But it's interesting how they tried to reconcile it and just didn't.
Yeah.
Okay. So there are stories from the time of, this is in the 1930s now.
Yep.
So Hobiger himself died in 1931. So his followers kept the movement going.
Wait, that's when my dad was born.
Oh, my God.
Could have been a reincarnation. Therefore,
He is. You are.
I am.
There are stories from the time of world ice devotees. Lay reckons there were literally millions of followers.
Okay.
I know Germany's a big country,
Sure.
but millions is a lot. Anyway, his followers would interrupt educational meetings, physics lectures and stuff like that. So they go into physics lectures and yell out, and they're all chanting.
Ice, ice, baby.
Really should. They really should. Well, more boringly, out with astronomical orthodoxy. Give us Hobiger. So they're all chanting.
That is a shit chant.
It is.
Even in German, it would be longer.
It would be long. Not a great.
Wer stützt die Kuschenmasse, lege die ausfehlen, du musst die Gott die Kasche tun. One more time.
They also wrote openly threatening letters to a whole bunch of astronomers and physicists.
Okay.
There was a director of a government institute that was told, once we have won, you and your kind will go begging. So they really got totally
your
bullying.
Kind. Your kind's a great call.
Hobiger himself once wrote, either you believe me and learn, or you must be treated as the enemy. So, I think he does... Okay. That's the bit I was mentioning before. He doesn't seem to have been perfect. Like, I didn't think he was a bad guy, but he does seem to have been happy to bully people a little bit.
Strong language.
Yeah.
It's
and
hard
I think the
that.
idea of winning a scientific debate by convincing the wider population first, perhaps by a little bit of bullying, is not lovely. Yeah, if anyone doubted him, he'd shout, instead of trusting me, you trust equations? How long will you need to learn that mathematics is valueless and deceptive? The practical engineer, he always called himself.
That's not the engineer you hire. We're looking for an engineer. I do not believe in maths.
No.
Have you got a partner? I think he created
I'm a vision guy.
I dreamt how this bridge should be built. You're like, I'm going to need a little more.
I don't know how much engineering he was still doing. At
Sounds
this time.
like none.
It sounds like once he'd done his invention and the Budapest subway, it's like, all right, I'm done with all of that.
I'm a fan of qualitative methods, but not to build structures.
No, not at all. No, not at all. It was by feel. I feel the bridge.
That looks strong enough to me.
Okay. There was another story of like businessmen who would only hire staff if they felt friendly about the world ice theory.
Why the fuck did that matter? Like, it's just amazing. Imagine giving such a shit about that.
I don't know.
That blows my mind. Like, no, you know what's really important to me? Do you believe that the cosmos is made of ice and it came from a giant sun and one of it stuck in, and the small sun that was made of ice actually fell into that sun? It took 3.5 million years for that to turn to stem and went whoosh. And then we had moons. There was other moons. Do you know ancient people saw that other moon? They blew down.
I don't want to work here anymore. Thank you, sir.
Anyway, here's your pay. I don't want it.
I just don't know.
Fuck
so,
me.
okay, look at all these ingredients. There's a whole bunch of magic. There's a non-Jewish explanation for the for how the universe works.
Thank God.
And there's bullying people into taking up a new belief. You know who loved that shit? The Nazis. The Nazis freaking loved it. So as I said
You're allowed
before,
to say Hitler. You can call it. Do you know who else was into that? Hitler.
Yeah, Hitler definitely was. But the famous Heinrich Himmler, as I said, but the Nazi martyr Horst Wessel, so he Nazi asshole. He was killed fairly early on. I'm not sure who by, and then he became this martyr to the whole Nazi party.
I never heard of him. I'd heard a lot, but not that.
Yeah, I know. He's famous. He's a youngish guy. He's a little bit like, imagine if Kyle Rittenhouse. A little bit like that, maybe.
If you're listening in the future, Kyle Rittenhouse didn't used to be president.
Yeah, no, there. Anyway, they all dived in, like balls in.
Okay.
Yeah, they loved that they didn't have to listen to Einstein's understanding of space anymore.
He was a little circumcised, wasn't he? So we can't have that.
There you go. Yeah. World ice theory was authentically German. Gives you a different way to understand the universe. They also loved, because like our Nordic ancestors grew strong in ice and snow. So that's obviously like this is when they're thinking ice is awesome.
Also, as opposed to everybody else's ancestors who were puny little lady girls. I mean, what are you talking about?
All from warm places where there wasn't ice. So they're like,
therefore weak.
Exactly. Like they're really thinking ice is awesome.
And heat is no challenge. Or swimming, climbing mountains, dealing with famine, desert. Yep. No challenge, only ice.
They also loved again that Hobiger was Austrian. Just as it needed a child of Austrian culture, Hitler, to put the Jewish politicians in their place, so it needed an Austrian to cleanse the world of Jewish science.
Good snapping lord.
Now,
do you know what amazes me? Nazi articulations and utterances can still surprise.
I know.
There's always another one where you go, what?
Yeah, it's still, you're awful, but wacky and weird. Like
There's
so.
more. How could there be more layers to this ridiculous onion? But
Okay, so Hitler totally embraced this, and so Eric Kullander says this was the only border science, so border science term that like pseudoscience or fringe scientific movement, pretending to be scientific sort of thing, that Hitler embraced wholly and with conviction. So Hitler quotes it a few times. He's talking about the moon theory and pre-moon humanity. He read a whole bunch of the books and believed its predictive qualities when it came to both geological and meteorological phenomena. So he's
very important to Hitler.
Yeah, and also remember Hitler kind of came undone because of a bad winter, amongst many other things.
I was going to say
invading Russia from the west is not a good thing to do. But maybe it would have been better if he got better meteorological predictions.
Yeah, not like take the
Not
weather.
better, but,
if you take the weather forecast for Earth. It may be not quite as locally relevant to you as you'd hoped.
He wanted to erect a great observatory in his hometown, Hitler's hometown, representing the three great cosmological conceptions of history: Ptolemy, Copernicus, and Hobiger. Hitler even said he said maybe world ice theory could replace Christianity eventually.
I don't think they're the same. I don't believe in either, but I don't think they're the same.
This gives a theory of how the universe sort of started.
But that's not. I can't believe I'm going to defend Christianity here or any religion, but I feel like it does a bit more.
Yeah, this doesn't tell you how to live your life, as far as I could see. It just says there's ice.
Yeah, it doesn't say that people who are different are wrong. Oh no, it does.
They gave an honorary doctorate to Philip Fouth. You remember the guy that he wrote the book with?
Too many fifths,
Yeah. And they put a meteorologist in charge of the World Ice Theory in Hitler's super think tank.
Can you imagine that? You're a meteorologist, go and run this. I don't know how.
I know,
this isn't meteorology. That's not fair.
Now, so at the same time, the Gestapo banned professional debunkers from revealing any of the secrets behind this. So it's like
shocked, I tell you.
I know, right? Okay, so there were some limits. Like the propaganda ministry said, you can be a good Nazi without believing in the world ice theory. So they said you don't have to believe it.
And people say they were unyielding.
And I love this. There were prominent mathematicians and physicists who said, this freaking dumb theory that you've got is going to hurt the war effort. So, well, they said we don't have enough maths and science skills already. So believing in this magic garbage is.
Thanks for making it worse, fellas.
I know, and so this is the Prussian Academy of Science wrote to someone, I can't remember what. Hey, what are you doing here? It's bad enough that kids can't do math anymore. And I love even back in the 30s, like in Nazi Germany, people are worried about kids that can't do math anymore.
The problem is that children, they can't count.
And they're like, we're trying to rebuild our military and improve our technology.
They spend too much time with their gramophones.
Now you've got, too much time with your world ice theory. So they're like, stop it. And this is really problematic. And this is the thing that comes out at the very end. Like there's some people who reckon this dumb magical belief
saved the world?
A little bit. So there's stories.
Enough.
There's stories of the German Navy. And this was helped along by Hitler and all of the idiots in the Nazi party using a bunch of this pseudoscience to actually make decisions. So there's stories of them. They would use the pendulum science to try and detect where British ships were. So they'd have a map and they'd hold the pendulum above the map. And if it made a circle or if it made
a shape,
it would say where the British ships were. They also
did that go well?
No. They also used this other theory that supposedly, because of the world ice theory, you can look up into space in a certain angle and see where the ships were. And supposedly...
the refractions from the space.
There are actually like admirals and people making decisions based on this dumb idea.
Wait a moment, Lieutenant. I am looking into the stars for a reflection of what's happening, 1,000 nautical miles away.
And there's the British ship, something like that. So here's the thing. The thing. They started with, obviously a super dumb idea, but they took it up because it suited them, and then it made their thinking dumber and dumber and dumber. And they brought this in. Like, obviously, there were plenty of people in the German army that were using normal maths and all of that, but there was enough
because they got anywhere. They mentioned the last 5 years.
I know. But there was enough people using the dumb maths of world ice theory that here's the thing. I think an idiot ideology that tied themselves in such stupid knots that they could never really ever win in the long run.
Look at you. You've put a positive spin on fucking morons being in charge. Like there's something to be said for it. If they're in the charge of the right place and the right activity, let's call it, then great.
So there you go. So
that's wild.
World Ice Theory didn't last much past August 1945. There you go, listener. That is the dumb pseudoscience that
I want more.
This
can't be over yet.
So I mentioned a bunch of sources. So Willy Lay's Pseudoscience in Nazi Land, Christina Vesely's Cosmic Ice Theory, Eric Kurlander's Songs of Ice and Fire and Hitler's Monsters. All awesome, fascinating stuff. So...
But you won't need those because you've heard this.
And also maybe rocket mail.
Oh, no, artillery. I want the explosions. Because like a rocket you can control after you fired it, in theory. Artillery shells, you're on your own, son.